Hi, everybody. Jeff Gayduk here from Leisure Group Travel, and happy to have with me today Clayton Whitehead from Sports Leisure Vacations. Clayton, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Hello, everyone from sunny Sacramento, California.
Awesome. Well, I had to import the fake sun in the background today in my desert scene. Just didn't think people wanted to see my messy office and back, so I went with the virtual Zoom meeting today. So,
Well, here in my house, in my dining room, and there's my favorite city in America, Charleston, right over my shoulder.
oh, awesome, awesome, great. Well, you're like a lot of us these days, still at home, but waiting for that next step in business. So, Clayton, let's just start this by talking a little bit for those that are not familiar with Sports Leisure Vacations. Give us just that 30,000 foot overview of the company and what you guys do.
Okay, we are a per capita escorted tour company. Per capita, I mean we sell by the seat. We don't sell really to group leaders or preformed groups of any kind. Our main client base is a travel club of our own creation. Most of them are in the Sacramento area or at least this section of Northern California, or have connections to it. Maybe they have relations here or they used to live here. We keep things pretty local. All of our marketing is local. We're a 41-year-old company. Our travel club has about 8,000 active members. And from them, we are able to put on, during a normal year, about 250 tours, all of which we create. Don't use a lot of receptives, a little bit here and there when it makes sense. But for the most part, we plan, market, and execute all of our own tours. Also, an interesting thing about our corporate model, which makes us a little different from a lot of our peers, is that with our company, the planner is most often the escort. We don't hire any contractors. We don't have any escort onlys. Everyone is a planner. Everyone is an escort. And most escorts will take out the tours they planned.
Hmm.
So it gives the person at the front of the bus a lot of equity in that product, a lot of knowledge of the product. If something goes right, they're the ones who did it. And if something goes wrong, well, they're the ones who did that too. But being the decision maker and the one holding the purse strings, that person is usually in a position to try to fix it.
Yeah,
So
that's that's a very unique model.
yeah, we've had a lot of success with it. Of course, it's got there are some pitfalls to this model, like with me doing mostly East Coast and European tours. I'm out of the office 250 days a year, usually in another time zone and very often another country. So, if something goes bad in the office, very often the person you need to fix it is on the road and can't fix it for a few days. But still, we like the way this works when it comes to the product, and we feel that what makes our product, and indeed what has made our company so successful, is that control we have and the ability to, as we say, make dreams come true.
Has it always been that way with sports leisure, or did you adopt that model over time?
Actually, I guess I'll take a wee bit of credit for that. I joined the company now 28 years ago. We were in our teens then. And at that point, we had primarily a planning staff and an escort staff. We still were not in the following a model where we hired contractors, but we did have this permanent staff of planners and escorts. Well, when I found myself 3,300 miles from home, having moved from the Athens, Georgia area to Sacramento, planning tours back home to the East Coast, to the South, to the places I love, it quite honestly caused me a lot of pain. I didn't want to give my baby, my tour creation over to somebody who wasn't a native Southerner, who wasn't a native East Coaster, who didn't know or understand these places that I was, talking about.
Mhm.
So I began this shift towards being a planner escort. And the model worked so well that over a few years, our company adopted it about 90%. In the area of day trips, especially when Hamilton was in San Francisco, we took like 50 buses. Well, the same planner doesn't want to go to see Hamilton 50 times.
No matter how
So
good it is.
yeah, so with some of the shorter trips, the day trips, the trips that we tend to repeat a lot, we share the wealth and we pass them around, and that way everybody got to see Hamilton 5 times. But that's fun too.
Absolutely. So talk a little bit, 250 tours a year, again, pre-COVID. What was the makeup of that percentage of day tours, overnight, domestic, international? Just give me a ballpark of what you guys did as far as directional.
I would say about half of those would be motor coach only tours. a large number of that half being day trips. Having San Francisco only 90 miles away, I mean, you could go to San Francisco every single day and do something. Theater is strong there, opera is strong, ballet, art exhibitions, and then just general sightseeing in one of America's most iconic and beautiful cities. So lots and lots of day trips to San Francisco. Motor coach trips, multi-day motor coach trips may go as far north as Oregon, may go as far south as Southern California or Las Vegas. But we are basically geographically disadvantaged out here. We have a lot of neat things within a day's drive. We have Yosemite, the gold country, the wine country. As I mentioned, San Francisco, we've got the gaming in Nevada. But then to go further than Nevada, you're talking about 1, 2, or 3 day drive across, across deserts and plain states. I love the deserts and plain states, but you can't sell tours to Charleston or Savannah or DC or New York City or Boston with every one of them beginning and ending with this long, long drive across this very big country of ours. It's just not sellable. So folks out here are not afraid of airplanes. Flying as a part of our culture. So anything that's more than a couple states away, we're absolutely flying to it. And indeed, many of our, thanks to Southwest Airlines, many of our in-state tours are going to be fly trips as well. Maybe it's an hour's flight, but that beats sitting in a bus for 500 miles. So the point is, we're not a motor coach driven company. We don't own buses. We don't have keeping those buses on the road as our agenda. We have creating the best tour as our agenda. And if you're going to San Francisco, or rather to, let's say, to Los Angeles for the premiere of the next big Broadway show that Disney is turning out, they usually premiere down at the Alcazar in Los Angeles. You know, we can fly down there, see the show at night, spend a night, have a great dinner, fly back the next day. So, you know, is it a little more expensive than an all motor coach trip? Yeah, but it's a much better use of people's time. And since we serve a more affluent client base, really the price is not that big a deal. It's more the experience.
Well, you can also shorten the duration of the trip if you're not spending that much time on the motor coach as well. So you get a little bit back in that regard as well. What was your international outbound footprint? Again, 2018, 2019.
We usually do about a dozen-ish off the continent trips. I should say I don't count Canada as a foreign country. So I'm talking about leaving the continent. A dozen-ish a year. We do a big survey once a year to query our people about where they want to go internationally. So we feel that we're planning that calendar with a lot of client input because we want to put out tours to places people want to go. That's a good business model, right? Popular European destinations would be Italy and Ireland. Number one for sure. The Roman Catholic Church drives Italy. Even if people are not active Catholics, they want to go to the Catholic homeland. They want to see Vatican. Okay, that's great. It sells tours, and it's one of the world's great historic sites, right? Ireland, it's ancestry. Every time I see one of those genealogical ads on TV, I'm like, ka-ching, that just sold a tour to Ireland. Everybody wants to go to see where their people came from, and that's great. Secondary destinations would be Switzerland and Bavaria, especially. That's a nice combo. We've done Switzerland and Northern Italy. That's a great combo. The Mediterranean region, southern Spain in general, but especially southern Spain, southern France sells well for us. Croatia, I don't know why, but it's big. We had a great run with Iceland. I think for those places, it's just the I've never been there before factor.
Yeah.
To go someplace that sounds super exotic and that seems relatively safe. We've had a lot of success with New Zealand and Australia. Interesting there. Australia sells it. Everybody wants to see a koala bear, but New Zealand is what they come back remembering. Yeah. That's just a phenomenal destination. We've had some good traction also in the South Pacific with French Polynesia, Tahiti, Hawaii. We have a lot of success with Hawaii. Now, granted, that's a state, but it's a long way from here.
True.
It kind of reminds me of home. Back home, everybody goes to Myrtle. Yeah. You go to Myrtle Beach. That's where you go. Well, out here, since the Pacific is a beautiful but a cool temptress. The Pacific is beautiful, but you don't drive over here to the coast 100 miles and jump in. You'll freeze to death.
True.
But Hawaii, is the Myrtle Beach for Californians. And we sell it a lot. People want to go there. I don't get it. I'd rather go to Myrtle. But
Yeah, be
that's
careful.
just me.
Hawaii might pick up that slogan. Any business to Asia, China, Korea? Is that been popular?
Yeah, only a little bit. One member of our staff actually majored in, I don't know, international business affairs or something, with a focus on Asia, and he can speak a little Chinese. And our office manager is of Chinese heritage. I'd say once every 3 or 4 years is about all the market will bear for that. Again, which we put out to sell what we think will sell based on our, sorry, forgive the lines, folks. These are my blinds right on my left. But we try to sell what will sell, and Asia doesn't really come to the top very much.
Okay, fair enough. So to the point I was making earlier before I interrupted myself, tell me about the last year. What have you guys gone through organizationally, structurally? Has anything gone out?
Our world stopped on March 11th of last year when the World Health Organization ruled this to be a pandemic. Within 5 days, we had 80 people planning to go to New Orleans for St. Patrick's Day, which is where I should be right now on the rollover trip. That also didn't happen. Within 10 days of that announcement, we had 40 people going to Charleston and Savannah. Within 30 days, we had 40 people going to Texas for a presidential libraries tour. All my tours to southern states, I tend to go in the spring when the humidity and the temperatures are a little bit more agreeable. And we were suddenly in this tailspin of having to cancel things, having to explain to clients what was going on when so little was known about the pandemic. I mean, we know now how the story continues, if not ends. But back in March, suppliers were crazy, our customers were crazy, we were all crazy. But we just felt in our hearts that getting on airplanes and traveling halfway or all the way across this continent was not a good idea. We got into a lot of force majeure arguments. We got into a lot of vouchers being issued rather than refunds, and we were happy to get them because maybe then it wasn't a total loss. I mean, we've got tens and tens. We have literally hundreds of thousands of dollars right now riding on trips that we had to cancel in March and April of 19 that we haven't been able to do in 20 either.
Jeez.
And rolled over again to 22. We are confident, all that being said, that things are going to get a little normal for us come June. Our flyaway trips, knock on wood, will resume. And a lot of that money we have on deposit will start, we'll be able to start spending it, which means that then we can start getting a return on our investment. Some of you may know California is a seller of travel state, 1 of 5. And that means, short story, I promise, that means all client dollars are held in escrow until the last day of any tour. So all this money, all our client money, thank God we've got a lot of it in the bank right now, but it's all sitting in escrow.
Jeez.
We can't use that even to pay bills applying to those tours. We have to have enough operating capital to run those tours so that we can get our refund on the last day. And we have to pray that those suppliers that are holding deposits from 19 and 20 don't go out of business before we get there and we can spend that money.
Well, that gives you another incentive to get on the road quickly, for sure. So talk about some of these early trips. What have you got planned for the summer? What do you think is going to be safe and reliable and deliver a good experience?
Well, we had planned for 19. In 19, we had planned for calendar year 20, a huge focus on Canada. And in fact, 2 of my first 3 tours are Canadian tours this summer. So just praying that border gets open, because if the borders don't open in time for us to finalize the air and the hotels, we've got to make decisions 45, 60 days out. And then just pray that the decisions we're making, whether we decide to sink or swim, you have to pray that when we get to what was the planned execution date, that the trip is either operable and we made the right decision to keep it on the book, or that the trip remains inoperable, so we made the right decision to cancel it. And then we're in a much better position when we're begging for those refunds and rollovers and force majeure.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, Canada's going to be a little sketchy, I think, this summer. So let's keep our fingers crossed with that. Um, along those lines, what are your travelers telling you? What sort of feedback are you getting from them about their return to travel plans?
I will say, though, I've certainly I've talked to a lot of crazies.
Yeah.
I mean, bless people's hearts. You just want to say sometimes, do you watch TV ever? Listen to the news on the radio ever? Do you know what's going on in the world?
Yeah.
But the vast majority of them are confident. The vast majority of them are sticking with us. On every tour we've canceled, the vast majority have rolled over. Just keep the money. We already paid you. The credit card bill's already been paid. We want to go there. Just
Good.
keep the money. Our consumers, our travelers are very confident. And we've tried to, as much as we can, we've tried to uphold that level of confidence. We stress that we're a secure company. We don't like spending all this money to stay alive and not make any, but we have the capital to do it because of a lot of good years, because of you, our customers. Thank you. We're here because of you. We've kept our underwriting on our local PBS station going throughout the pandemic with no cash flow, because it's important to be on public television.
True.
Our clients watch PBS, and we can't not be there after having been an underwriter for the past 30 plus years. We're continuing and I have a lot of clocks in my house, which is what you're hearing now. We continue to do underwriting with local charities. We can't afford it, but we keep doing it because we don't want to not be there after such a long time.
Well, you're paying it forward is what you're doing now, is that first of all, recognizing the support you've gotten, but it seems like you're formulating a recovery plan already just through your continued, let's be present in this environment.
We've certainly tried to have a lot of FaceTime with our clients. Social media has been great. Mature adults, especially mature women, love Facebook. So we're there with video messages, posting pictures, holiday greetings like St. Patrick's Day, Valentine's Day, Christmas, Easter, or not Easter yet, Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving. We're there with a presence. We've done drive-by events at the office where people could come through the parking lot and get a custom-made mask. They cost us $5 each. We had 250 people who came and picked one up.
Nice.
And it was just a little FaceTime. We had parking lot trick-or-treating. People got double the candy if they came in costume. We probably had 100 people in costume of the 300 or 400 who came and trick-or-treated in our parking lot. Just FaceTime, letting them know that we're still here, we're going to make it, and that their dollars are safe through this California Seller of Travel law.
So one thing I wanted to ask you, it's impossible to come out of this and say, well, we're just going to go back to the way we were and what we did. How do you think either you're going to be different coming out of this as an organization, as a person, or the travel experience is going to be different?
Well, thankfully, we were a little bit ahead of the curve on this without knowing it. A number of years ago, and again, we do so much of what we do is fly away. A number of years ago, the airlines forced us into a new model. We have never been a company that packed a bus. We never went out with 55 people, but we very often went out with 40. But with the with regional jets becoming so much more a part of United's network, which is our primary long haul carrier out of Sacramento, they wouldn't give us the 30 seats or the 35 seats or the 40 seats. We were suddenly only able to negotiate blocks of 20 and 25. So we created a new brand, our Only 25 series, guaranteeing people that though they were going to be, the trip was going to cost a little bit more because it was going to be, it was going to have a low client ceiling, they were going to have such a more awesome experience. Think how short the bathroom lines are going to be. I mean, that's a joke, but that was a good selling point. On a more practical level, when you walk in with 20 or 25, restaurants are much more prone to let you order off the menu. That's great. Hotel check-in went so much quicker. and hotel departures went so much quicker. And everybody got a window seat on the bus. When you think about the 55 passenger bus, if you only got 20 or 25 people there, everybody gets a window seat. So we turned this lemon into some pretty sweet lemonade. So we have long been in a habit now of creating these tours that can run profitably at 20 or 25. Back in August, when we had a slight relaxing, August of 2020, we had a slight relaxing of our lockdown. What do you call it? You know, the rules that allowed us to operate or not. We were able to get six motor coach trips off.
Oh, good.
4-day trips, a couple of overnighters. It was nothing major, no huge cash flow, but it did force us to write a safety and health protocol, a waiver that we make the people sign. We've edited it a few times, like when it was decided that neck gaiters weren't safe, we wrote that off. When it was decided that the face shields weren't safe, we wrote that off. Now with the advent of vaccines and quick testing, we've added those things. We're now requiring, and we by the way, we have our second trip on the road of the year right now. So we're now requiring that people either present evidence of having gotten at least the first dose of vaccine, or if you're a non-vaxxer, we're not going to get into politics with you, but you get to go and take a test within 3 days of travel, giving us evidence that you're disease-free.
Smart.
And nobody's, everybody's like, hey, you're keeping us safe.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. I like that. It seems as though, well, first of all, you guys were socially distanced before it was cool. So kudos to you on that. And I'm anticipating that as people start feeling better about travel again, you guys should be able to pick up steam pretty quickly.
Well, we had a perfect storm on the day of Biden's speech, which again, not wanting to talk about politics, but I do think that he gave a lot of people a lot of confidence. On that very day, our spring newsletter hit mailboxes.
Okay.
Now, our spring newsletter had exactly one new tour in it. Every single thing in it was a recapitulation of things we rolled out in our 2021 tour catalog that was mailed out around Halloween. In fact, it was given out live with the candy at our parking lot event and then mailed to everybody else. It was a perfect storm. People had new confidence and people had our newsletter in their hands. In the last, it's been, I'm not sure when you'll air this, but it's been 5 days now since Biden made his speech. We've sold $500,000 worth of tours.
Nice.
The phones have been crazy berserk. But the funny thing is, people will call, oh, I want to go to Moab. Sorry, that tour is sold out. How can it be sold out? I just got my newsletter. It's like, well, that trip was also in the January newsletter and the November newsletter. Oh, and by the way, it was in our 2021 catalog that came out at Thanksgiving. A lot of people just weren't seeing it. We were mailing the stuff out. We were talking the good talk about it, but people weren't looking at it.
Yeah. Now they're getting ready.
They're looking. And in fact, amid all this crazy phone call culture in our office, we've got 5 lines, and literally for 5 straight days, every line, every minute from when we open to when we close, somebody's been on the phone taking a reservation. But then in the background, the tour planners are working. We have put on an additional Quebec departure. We've put on an additional Niagara departure. We already had 2 departures to see the pageant of the Masters down at Laguna Beach in LA. We've now put on a 3rd. We've added countless extra day trips because everything is just selling out so quickly.
Good.
We need product.
Yeah.
Of course, then you get into the other part of the equation, which is so many of our supplier friends are gone.
Yeah.
And their offices aren't up and running. You call a restaurant and you talk to a fry cook and you say, I need a group menu. And they're like, I just answered the phone.
Hold on a minute. The fries are up.
Yeah. And so we're, with this product was already on the books, whether or not our contact person is there, at least we have signed contracts. We've got something to stand on. But trying to create this new product, you just can't quickly do it because, the lights may be on, but nobody's home in a lot of supplier situations. I'm not being critical. I get it.
Sure.
This is just This is the reality. So talking about how the future's different, the future's different because a lot of these people aren't coming back to work soon. And as we all know, a lot of these people aren't coming back to work.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's going to be the last phase of the recovery. Once the revenue is there and companies have been able to rebuild their business, those that have massive infrastructure and rent and mortgages and electric bills, they've been bleeding for the last year. So
Mm.
you certainly can't disqualify somebody for what they had to do, very difficult business decisions. But yeah, we've seen that across the board. Is that the people that we've come to rely upon are just no longer there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even and obviously it's not just suppliers, it's DMOs as well.
Yeah.
After making 3 or 4 failed supplier calls, well, you dare to call the Convention and Visitors Bureau, they're not there either. You look up the Chamber of Commerce in that town, you call them, you call friends and relations you went to college with, what does it look like in your town? Would you drive by this place for me and see if they're still open? Go in and see if anybody's there, that I should call.
Yeah.
I mean, we're having to go through a lot of back doors. We're having to think about things really, really differently. And ultimately, even when the tour hits the road, we're going to go into it with not everything really settled. I mean, I just think that's going to be the reality. And we're going to have to hope for the best. And then that's when it's, again, another great advantage that the planner, the guy who developed the purse and who is holding the purse strings, is standing there and able to make decisions. Okay, what I plan to do isn't here. I've got this much money. What can I find right now to take its place?
Yeah. Well, you think about the advantage of group travel over individual travel in this scenario that you laid out. People aren't going to just be able to fly into a destination and wing it for the weekend. That hotel that had a great review on TripAdvisor, those employees are no longer there, or maybe it's under a different flag now, or that great restaurant doesn't exist anymore, or the museum's closing early. So just the advanced work that you're doing in prepping all of this is preserving that travel experience the best that it can be, versus the solo travelers who are really going to be, hitting a lot of dead ends, I think, over the next few months as they get back on the road.
Yeah. Hotels, bless their hearts. I mean, I know it's rough. One of the real issues we're having is the hotel's open. Oh, but by the way, the restaurant isn't. And we were counting on them for breakfast at least, but we are not a company that provides 3 meals a day, but rather 2 meals a day. We usually leave 1 meal at the client's leisure. If that's the evening meal, 90% of them are going to go down into the hotel restaurant. It's convenient. It's there. They don't have to wander dark foreign streets. Well, if the restaurant isn't open, that's a huge issue.
Sure.
So, and even full service hotels, even, the Marriott, even the bigger boys sometimes are not really back to full service. So we're having to, and God bless them for coming up with a sack breakfast. I do appreciate that. But if it's a 5, 7, 10-day tour, do you want a cold muffin every morning? I mean,
No.
that's not fair. We actually have one tour that we took the group. There was a McDonald's across the street. We took the group to McDonald's twice. I mean, at least it was a hot breakfast. And, it beat the muffin in the bag. So, I mean, but they all still got the muffin in the bag. And then that was a snack for later in the day if they wanted it. It turned out to be a win-win. Everybody enjoyed it. Everybody got exactly what they wanted, and it was hot. Yeah. And our escort and a maid or two helped him, ran across the street and, did pickups for people who wanted to take their breakfast in the room. You were making the best of a bad situation.
Well, I can tell you the first call I'm going to make when we're done here is McDonald's. I'm going to sell them an ad just based on what you said here. So last question for you, Clayton. Obviously we've been all spending way too much time at home. Where's the next place you're going, or where do you long to travel to as things become back to some degree of normalcy?
Well, this might be the Southerner in me talking, but I want to go home. Those of you who know me know that I'm from North Georgia, grew up on a big cattle farm just outside of Athens that my family has owned since 1802. My mother still runs the farm poorly, but she runs it. She's 90 years old. She runs it all by herself. I don't want any part of it, but I do. Historically, I've always gone home 3 or 4 times a year, usually stay 2 weeks. That's the beauty of being in an industry that's a little more seasonal is, I can take these blocks of time off, go home, help mom with a few projects, clean the gutters, paint a room, fix fences, you know. So she's been without that assistance since February of last year.
Oh my goodness.
And I miss her. And mom doesn't have an iPhone. We can't FaceTime. We do talk on the real phone every night, but I just want to go home.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, I sincerely appreciate your time today. You've been very gracious with me. Good intel on what you guys have gone through, but I think really some encouraging news on a going forward basis as far as getting back up and running again.
If we can all just hold out a little while longer, it's got to get better, right? It's just got to.
Absolutely. Okay. Thanks again, Clayton.
Thank you, Jeff. Take care, everybody.